All right, hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Z, or Nasario, whatever you want to call me. Either way, just call me Z. And today, got another video for you guys today. Few weeks ago, I asked you guys on my Instagram story what you wanted to, see next, and one of the choices was top 5 reptiles that aren't the best beginner pets. So, let's just kind of jump right into that. We're gonna be discussing some snakes, some lizards and stuff. This is gonna be a little bit of my personal um opinion, so don't consider this a fact sheet once again. But without further ado, let's start with number one. Okay, number 5, even though I already said like number 1 in like the intro. Number 5, one of the animals you shouldn't own first when you're just hopping into the reptile hobby. Ball pythons. Yeah, shocking, right? I know, they're kind of regarded as one of the nicer, snakes out there in, the reptile hobby, but they can kind of get pretty challenging, especially to the new reptile keeper in the hobby, because one of the few, no, getting mixed up with my words, but one of the things that they do, which can kind of get a little scary to the new reptile owner, is that sometimes they will do this random hunger strike, and that hunger strike will sometimes last 1 week, 3 weeks, or sometimes even 3 months without eating. And that will sometimes stress that, not even sometimes, it will stress out any type of reptile owner or animal owner, whether you're owning, mammals, strictly reptiles, or birds, whatever, and you happen to have a ball python in your collection. That's going to stress you out. So it's not the easiest, I'm not saying that they're hard, but they're definitely not the easiest animal to own. And you probably saw a picture of one, run across the screen there that I edited in, because visuals. And it's obvious, Zebulon himself, he's not a ball python, he's a boa constrictor. But that's a little bit of a mistake I made there, and I'm gonna mention this later on in the video. But ball pythons aren't the easiest pet to own. A substitute to, if you're just getting into the reptile hobby and you want to get a pet snake, I recommend getting a corn snake over a ball. Personally, this is just my personal opinion, because corn snakes, they're honestly super duper tame. They never usually refuse a meal. Um, they are super docile. You'll never have to really worry about aggression or any of that. I've dealt with a few ball pythons who are like super duper mellow, and I've dealt with some ball pythons that are like super duper Black Air Force energy. It's never, it's a bit of a dice roll. Corn snakes, nothing like that. So I guess that's what this video is now. Just top 5 animals to not get um as beginners and their substitutes, if I can come up with some. Number 4. This one is kind of going to be an interesting pick, but I keep seeing a whole bunch of influencers do this a lot. Um, this is a choice that's like not necessarily like, for, beginners, but like people who know of the hobby. They kind of think they know what they're doing, but at the same time, they don't know what they're doing. But I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This is a pet you shouldn't get immediately jumping into the hobby, and that is an iguana. Yes, I said it. Iguanas are interesting animals. Um, because they're a little crafty. They're little crafty at times, because sometimes they're super duper chill. They can be like big teddy bears, like big scaly puppy dogs, but at the same time, sometimes they'll go 0 to 100 real quick. And that's kind of like the case with, a bunch of the larger lizard species, like monitor lizards, sometimes tegus. So it's kind of tit for tat sometimes. And One thing that I've always, known that iguanas can do to somebody's hand or anything that they grab a hold of, they will rip it to shreds. You're going to get stitches if you get bit by one. That's something you're not escaping. They're not the hardest animals to feed per se because they sometimes rely on diets of strictly, veggies and fruits or sometimes flowers. But sometimes they will eat meat. Um, Sometimes insects as their babies, or sometimes rats when they're young. But as they get older, they'll start, becoming more acclaimed to, a more vegetarian like diet. But like that's my number four, and a good substitute for them, in my opinion, if I can come up with one. Um, I'm kind of gonna get mad at myself for saying this, but because it's gonna be animal number three in a sense, but it's gotta be the bearded dragon. Bearded dragons wouldn't be a good substitute if you know what you're doing a little bit, and you can work your way up with them. And bearded dragons are kind of like tiny iguanas that just relatively need a very 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 hot spot um in their enclosure, sometimes up to 90 to 100 degrees. And that's basically it. They're just like little iguanas that live in the desert in a sense. And now on to number three, and I'm mad at myself for this suggestion. Okay, so number three, even though I'm super duper mad at myself for mentioning it earlier in number four as a substitute, but um, it's gonna have to be bearded dragon. Number three is a bearded dragon because even though they are typically easy pets in the reptile hobby, I wouldn't recommend them as a beginner pet for somebody who's jumping into the hobby and they have little knowledge of animals. Or, well, not little knowledge of animals, but mainly little knowledge of, reptiles, because beardies can be super duper crafty. And one of the many things I know and have seen people do before that's a big mistake in the past is that sometimes some people will put fake plants in their enclosure because they'll sometimes be under the impression, oh, every other reptile or people put in their tanks like fake plants. So I'm pretty sure if I get this little fish, tank decor and put it in the tank for my beardy, like a tree or a fake cactus, they'll like it too. Here's the problem with that. Beardies are typically very omnivorous. They're primarily insectivores, but they will eat vegetables and fruit if you feed it to them. I know some people give their beardies sometimes dusted pellets and an array of insects like mealworms, crickets, and some fruits and berries with, lettuce and stuff. But the problem is they'll mistake the fake plant that you put in there, like a fake cactus or some type of aloe vera, and they'll try to eat that. And that's a big no-no, because if they eat plastic, then you got a big problem on your hands that I don't want to mention because it might scare you in the case that you own a young beardy. So that's one thing that I will say about beardies not being the best beginner pet for a new reptile owner. A great substitute, and a great substitute in my opinion, in the case you find a beardy is a little bit more challenging for you. One animal that I will recommend that is 10 times easier, in my opinion, is a Eurymastix. Pretty much whenever somebody asks me what a Eurymastix is, I'll just straight up tell them it's a straight up vegetarian bearded dragon that looks like a dinosaur. And you see it running across the screen now, but they're super dope. Like, I've always wanted a Eurymastix. Hopefully, I can add a Eurymastix into my soon-to-be growing collection, but they're just super duper dope. They eat no meat whatsoever. They typically need the same amount of warmth in their enclosure as a bearded dragon does. But other than that, they eat no meat whatsoever. You don't really need to give them water because they'll get all their hydration from the fruits and the veggies that you feed them. But other than that, you are looking at one of the best substitutes for a bearded dragon, in my opinion, in the world, because looks like a little dinosaur, and on top of that, they just don't, bother anybody all day. Plus, you can socialize them too, so that's even better. Or if you're somebody who just wants it for decor, they're just literally the epitome of you do you, I'll do me. Simple. So that's why I like Uromastics. Now on to number 2. Right. We're going to start with number 2. This is something that I don't recommend you should own as a beginner. And it's very, very contradicting to what I mentioned in number 5. And I'm mad at myself for this. But it's going to have to be a boa constrictor. And it's funny because Zebulon here, this little noodle that you see wrapping in my hair, is the first snake that I've ever owned personally. He is my very first snake that I've owned on my own personally. And I'm mentioning his species not being the best, beginner snake. And there he is, just flicking his tongue. But not he, but his species, which are boa constrictors, I would not recommend as a beginner snake, even though I love boa constrictors. Don't get me wrong, they're like literally my favorite, species of snake out there. I wouldn't recommend them because, for one, they're very active. Like, they're super duper active snakes, and they come in all different types of sizes. You can get them in different colors. I know one of my favorite morphs personally is the Motley IMGs, Sunglows, even some of the Red Panthers that they've got going out there now. I personally love those ones too, but I wouldn't recommend them as a beginner because, for one, some boa constrictors get huge. So, for example, say whatever Petco you have in your local Petco, you see a cute little baby boa constrictor for like, let's say maybe $50. $50. That little baby boa constrictor, they're saying, oh yeah, this is a Colombian red tail boa. Number one red flag right there. Colombian boa constrictors cannot be red tails because true red tails are a part of the species, a part of the subspecies in genus of BCC, which means boa constrictor constrictor. Pretty much a true red tail, which includes like your Guyanese, your Peruvians, and your Surinams. I think those are the main 3, or I might be missing some, but comment down below if I am. Then you have your BCIs, which are your Imperators, which include your Colombians, Argentinian, your pretty much a lot of your Central American boas, such as him. Zebulon himself, he is a BCI, so he's an Imperator. Because, if you look at his tail, you can see it's not very red. It's more like a burgundy, maroon-ish color, as opposed to like a Suriname, whose tail is like super duper crimson, or a Guyanese or a Peruvian whose tails are like this deep, beautiful red. Those snakes will sometimes get up to about maybe, I know females can grow to be about 6 to 8 foot, sometimes even bigger. I've seen larger females before. I know I've seen personally with my own eyes, I've seen a 10-foot long female Colombian before. Costa Ricans get pretty big too. And the males, they typically stick around maybe 5 to 6 foot. Some can get into like the 7 foot range. I know the one that bit me on my arm here about last year was 7.5 foot. He was pretty large. And even though I love boas a lot, the number one thing I always knew was that, these things are going to have a lot of space. They're going to need a lot of space and a lot of climbing room because they are semi-arboreal. So that's one thing to consider when you're dealing with, one of these, a boa constrictor. A great substitute, in my opinion, would be the ball python. If you kind of want that experience of what a strong snake is like, but you're quite not ready for it. I recommend a ball python because boas can be super duper chill, like Zebulon here. He's super chill. Hey, look, that's so cute. Look at that. I need to redo that part. Man, that was cute. Number one, you guys, we finally made it. Couldn't wait to say it. Reticulated pythons. For the love of me, I don't understand why inexperienced, keepers keep getting these snakes. I've seen so many celebrities, I've seen so many influencers get these snakes. I don't know why. Yes, reticulated pythons, they're gorgeous snakes, super duper gorgeous. You can tame them down, but what are you going to do when that snake that you got when it was like perhaps maybe 3 feet long, 4 foot long, and that 4 foot long snake becomes 15, 20 foot later on? You're going to get tired of it and you find out, oh snap, I cannot carry this thing around anymore. Let me give it away. That's why I don't necessarily like it when people get reticulated pythons and don't really know what they're doing with it later on as they get bigger, because these snakes can live everywhere between, they can get up into the 30s, grow into their 30s, as far as I know. Same goes for boa constrictors, but I typically don't necessarily like people owning retics for that very reason, because they're not a small snake at all whatsoever. Just know, like, what are you doing? Finally, as we dwindle down to the final parts of the video, the substitute for a retic. I'm gonna have to say a Burmese python. The way I'll describe them as so. Retic, like a Rottweiler, has the potential to be nice, but will do what they want to do no matter how much you trained them, in a way, and packs a punch and are big. Now the substitute, Burmese pythons, are super duper dope. They're super cool. And I consider them to be like the golden retrievers of the snake world. Why? Because, they're pretty much big puppy dogs. Every Burmese python I've ever dealt with, I've never had a problem with. They're super duper dope. I've never been bitten by one. I'm always, super duper comfortable with one. My only recommendation is, if you're ever handling one, always have another person in the room as you are handling these snakes, because berms can get up to about, everywhere between 8 foot to some larger outliers around 15. I've seen some become larger, but that's the range that you're looking at, about 6 foot to 15 foot long snake. And they're super duper chill. They come in different morphs. Me personally, I just love the regular normal and albinos, just because, like, That's what I've always grown up, seeing, kind of like idolizing in a way. But other than that, that's just, that's my suggestion. But if you're new to the hobby, do not just jump in and just grab the first Burmese python that you see at any expo or whatever, because you're going to be in for a wild ride after that. But that's pretty much it, actually, now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for, watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below what you guys want to see from me. Follow me at all my socials in the bio, and not in the bio, in the description box below. Hopefully in October, I get to do a video at the Richmond Reptile Expo for you guys. Just so you guys can just see more of me instead of just me and Zebulon all the time. And maybe by then we might have a new friend. So who knows? But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'm going to see you guys next time. Peace out.